Yeah, but let me do it when the meeting starts so that it's on the record. All right, we'll open this special meeting for the Inspector General search. The board clerk can note in the record that all 7 board members are still present. Dr. Robinson, would you have a comment you would like to make?
Yeah. So this is just a point of personal privilege. It has nothing to do with the IG, but I just saw the email that at today's college fair, the HBCU HSI College Fair, 2016 acceptances were provided for college, and $15 million plus in scholarships were awarded. So thank you, staff.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Mr. Superintendent? The what? The BRD items, all of them? Okay. All right, so I recommend the board review the timeline and discuss and take needed action as needed regarding the recruitment and search for the new Inspector General. I need a motion. Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Brill. All right.
All right, I believe a member from Ray and Associates is on the line.
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone.
Okay. Mr. Superintendent? Dr. LaCava.
At this time, I'll turn over to Dr. LaCava and Mark Mitchell.
I believe first I want to see if, is Mr. Ray, are you on the phone, Mr. Ray?
Yes, sir, I am. It's a pleasure to be speaking with the board of Palm Beach County again since we had done your last search. So thank you for having me this evening.
We're glad you're here tonight. We hope we don't have to do any more searches for a while, so thanks for handling this one for us.
No problem.
Well,
So I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of an update, if that's okay.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, great. So we have 21 people that have started an application with us for the Inspector General search. And of 21, 11 have completed their files. And so we have the deadline date of January 31st coming up. We are actively recruiting. This evening, I spoke with another gentleman who said that he was going to put his application in as well. And of the quality that I'm seeing of the pool of candidates that have completely and fully applied, I am very excited. I can't tell you how excited I am about the quality of candidates that are applying for this position. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot of 11 people, but of those 11, I would actually probably bring 8 of those 11 to you as of right now. So the quality is there. We still have time. We're still recruiting, and the deadline date is January 31st. So just to let the board know, I'm extremely excited and happy so far, and you should be too.
All right, so at this point, since the board had set that January 31st deadline as the end of the application period, you're still okay with that? We can go ahead and finish it up to January 31st?
Absolutely. I'm seeing the quality there, so super excited for you all.
Okay, thanks. Dr. LaCava.
Yeah, the only question I had for the school board is once February the 11th day, which is the applications are available for review, would the board like a hard copy or a link to the resumes?
How many hands for a hard copy? How many hands for, can you do both?
You can do both.
Yeah.
You can do all 3. You can do both.
All right, so we'll do both. Hard copy to the board members and then a link.
Sounds good. I've got my marching orders for that then. I will let Molly know early in the morning.
Great. Anything else?
That's it. Unless the board.
Dr.
Nope,
Robinson?
that's it. We're excited.
Mr. Ray, Dr. Robinson has a question. Go ahead, Dr. Robinson.
So my question is, so we're screening just strictly by the listed qualifications, so anybody who meets the listed qualifications screens in?
That is correct. And not only that, but we're having conversations with these individuals, just like I did with the two individuals tonight. So we're looking at your qualifications. We're looking at their background, what they've done in the past. Have they been there for, say, in their current position for a long time? Are they just in their current position 1 year versus, somebody that's been in their current position and has a track record of like 5 or 6 years in each position?
So that takes me to the next part. So is there going to be a rubric created for evaluating these candidates at any point along the way? So for example, what I infer from Mr. Ray's comments is that he would view somebody who's been an IG for 6 years to have a higher score than somebody who's been an IG for 1 year, for example, right? Like, is there going to be any objective scoring either
So
at
there's
any
gonna be-
phase?
So there's going to be, some of you on the board might remember, our consensus building forced matrix that we did in the superintendent search. And we're happy to provide that consensus building matrix for you when you go through these candidates.
Refresh my memory, please.
Okay, it's a consensus building matrix. It forces you to go through and look at every single candidate, but you will have to pit each candidate up against every other candidate. So in the beginning, you might have Mr. Adams. You'll look through Mr. Adams' paperwork, and then you may have Miss Barber. And at some point, you're going to have to pit, do I like Mr. Adams better than Miss Barber, and select, make a mark for either 1 or 2, because they'll have numbers in alphabetical order. And then you'll have to do that. You have to pit Mr. Adams and Miss Barber to Mrs. Campbell, and so on and so on. And every board member does that in silence, by themselves, and as soon as all of the matrices are done for every board member, you can go ahead and tally up the numbers and see where the force ranks as far as scoring goes.
Go ahead, Dr.
So I would like the board to consider, if not a rubric process, at least a list of characteristics to consider. So for example, because the like thing bothers me, right? I would like to try to approach this as objectively as possible, right? So, for example, if somebody's been an IG in a school district, I think that in my mind they would rank higher than somebody who's been an IG elsewhere. But that's in my mind. So maybe that's my litmus test. But each person has their own litmus test. I think that we need to list those things. It doesn't mean it locks us in, but to help facilitate our thought processes. And then when we get to this forced, what was it called? Forced what? Forced matrix. Then
correct.
that whether I like someone or not is based on some thought grounded in some objective criteria. Now, if I'm the only one, then I just create my own, but I just think it should be a collective thought process about the factors that we think are important.
Ms. Whitfield?
So would we need to do that in a meeting, or could we just email Mark and say, these are the characteristics that we like individually? Ray, sorry, yes, you're like, I'm out, I'm definitely out. So is that kind of what you're thinking, that we would just do it in an email, or would you want to have a meeting to discuss what those characteristics are?
I actually think we should have at least, I don't think it's a long conversation, but, like 5 minutes of conversation. Yes, legal, in public, in the sunshine, yes. Around those things. I mean, and I would love to have Mr. Ray, Dr. LaCava, and all provide some input on their thoughts, but I think that we need to have some conversation, and if you don't want to create a rubric, that we at least have those criteria that we would consider as we're evaluating individually.
I'm fine with that.
Mr. Ray, if we have another meeting to to do what Dr. Robbins is suggesting. Will that impact your timeline?
When would that meeting be?
We have a meeting on February 5th.
February 5th. Let me see here. Yeah, because your deadline, I don't think it would, because let me see here. Sure, yeah, because your January 31st deadline, and then February 5th, and then we're slated to give you the candidates both in paper as well as electronic on what date, Mark?
February 11th.
So that would give us time to do what Dr.
That
Robbins is
gives-
suggesting before we have the candidates, so we can.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So if the board's okay with that, we'll schedule that to do that on February 5th. Okay.
It's on the agenda for the last meeting.
Okay. It'll be a special meeting like this one at the end of the day. At the end of the other meetings are already there.
If we could just ask Mr. Ray, Dr. LaCava, and all to share their thoughts with us, I guess at that meeting or prior to that meeting, however it should take place, in terms of the factors that they think we should be looking at, experience in a school district or whatever their factors are.
Absolutely.
General Counsel, can they submit that to us before the meeting, so we don't have to, we have it ahead of time? There's no sunshine issue if they submit that to us ahead of time?
I think they can compile their own list, and then you guys can take a look at it, but then don't, you're going to discuss it in another.
Okay, all right, fine. So, Dr. LaCava, if you gentlemen could get us your thoughts, and Mr. Ray, if you could get those down to Dr. LaCava or Mr. Mitchell, whoever you're dealing with, so that they can provide those to us also.
I certainly can.
Thank you. Ms. McQuinn.
I don't know where it fits in this discussion, but and I'm looking at your chairman's report to us, plus I already had the question. When are we going to fine-tune, revise the policy, specifically policy 1.092?
The meeting is Monday, so I thought as soon as hopefully we'll come to some kind of meeting of the minds between the different minds, because right now it looks like a big triangle and the big bang is in the middle, and when they come together it's kind of like, so hopefully we can keep it together and everybody will come together with some suggestions for the board to consider. So if that's the result, one way or the other, we'll get it scheduled right away so that we can get moving on that. Any other questions for Mr. Ray or Dr. LaCava, Mr. Mitchell? All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Ray.
Thank you. And we'll get right to work on that tomorrow morning for you.
All right, thank you very much. We need a motion to
Thank
adjourn
you.
this. Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Whitfield. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Meeting is adjourned.